during the assault on the U.S. Capitol. I'm Michael George in Washington with the growing calls for President Trump to step down.
The last known widow of a Civil War soldier passes away at a Missouri nursing home. And why Americans say sticking to their 2021 resolutions will be tougher than ever.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Police investigate an overnight burglary that ended with deadly gunfire. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, a home invasion investigation in Miami, Oklahoma. Police received a call just after midnight about a burglary in progress on the 900 block of B Street Northwest. The caller said he shot someone who had broken into his home. EMS took the suspect to Integris Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police are still investigating and have not yet released any names. A Capitol police officer who responded to Wednesday's riot died last night from his injuries, bringing the death toll from the assault at the Capitol to 5. President Trump, who is now condemning the violence, says he will not attend President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. Michael George has the latest from Capitol Hill.
To half staff at the U.S. Capitol for Officer Brian Sicknick. Capitol Police say the 12-year veteran of the force collapsed after a confrontation with violent rioters. Last night, officers gathered at the Capitol, flashing their lights as a show of respect. Sicknick's death comes hours after the U.S. Capitol Police Chief and Senate Sergeant-at-Arms stepped down amid outrage over Wednesday's security failures.
National Guard wasn't being deployed. We need to know why that happened.
President Trump is now condemning the violence carried out by his supporters.
To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country.
In a video produced by the White House, the president had harsh words for the same people he described very differently the day of the attack.
We love you. You're very special.
In the video, the president acknowledged a new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. But there's growing pressure to remove the president from office before then.
This is urgent. This is emergency of the highest magnitude.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and others are calling on the president's cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove Mr. Trump from office, or else the House may begin impeachment proceedings. But Trump administration officials are pushing back.
There's a long way to go to meet the constitutional requirement.
2 members of the president's cabinet resigned Thursday in the wake of the violence. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos and Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao. Michael George, CBS News, the Capitol.
This morning, the president sent his first tweet since Wednesday. President Trump did not address the death of the Capitol police officer. Instead, he wrote that the 75 million great American patriots who voted for him will have a giant voice long into the future. At least one Joplin resident was in Washington when the riot on Capitol Hill broke out. Abby Covington, who you might remember led the recent recall effort against the Joplin City Council, traveled to Washington, D.C. when she heard there would be a protest against the Electoral College results. Covington took this video during what she says was initially just a protest before members of the crowd stormed the Capitol building. Covington says she did not enter the Capitol building. She remained outside in the crowd. This man from Gravette, Arkansas did not. 60-year-old Richard Bigo Barnett was photographed lounging in House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office during the riots on Wednesday. He says he was just looking for the bathroom. Barnett is involved with a pro-gun rights group in Northwest Arkansas. He says he took an envelope off of Pelosi's desk and left her a quarter and a note.
I set my flag down and I sat down here at my desk. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a patriot. That is her desk. We loaned her that desk, and she ain't appreciating the desk, so I thought I'd sit down and appreciate the desk. I threw my feet up on the desk.
The FBI says Barnett could face federal charges. Well, the cold weather is here to stay, at least through the weekend. Unfortunately, Nick Kelly is in for Michael today and joins us with a look at the forecast.
At least unlike yesterday, Tanya, we're not dealing with any storm systems, no rain or snow as we continue through our Friday. So at the very least, when we go outside and see Joplin, the south side of Joplin overlooking Freeman Health System, at least we're seeing partly sunny skies. And again, nice to see nothing on the radar in terms of getting this afternoon started. In fact, what started out as mostly cloudy skies this morning again is actually yielding some partly sunny skies in some spots. That's allowing temperatures to already go into the mid-30s, 35 in Neosho, 37 in Chitopa, 38 in Parsons. So I've kind of had to bump these numbers up a little bit. At least around Joplin, I think we'll top out around 38 degrees as we head toward the afternoon. And as we head into tonight, overall, we're going to keep things quiet, but I think maybe a little bit of upper level energy could bring in a few snow flurries, but overall, we're just going to keep things cold tonight with closer to 25. And you hit the nail on the head, Tanya. It's going to be cold this weekend, but I think you're going to like the 7-day because we're going to bump the thermostat up over the next several days.
Oh, that sounds like something I want to hear about.
And you'll see those numbers coming up.
All right, thanks, Nick. Well, the last surviving widow of a Civil War soldier has died. Helen Viola Jackson of Marshfield, Missouri was just 17 years old when she married 93-year-old James Bolin in 1936. She was a caregiver for the Civil War veteran who served in the Union Army. Jackson claimed Bolin proposed to her so he could pass on his pension to her after he died to repay her for her services. This was during the Great Depression when many Americans were struggling. The young bride says that she and her husband's relationship was strictly platonic and she never even moved into his house. They were only married for 3 years before Bolin died in 1939. Jackson kept her story and the marriage a secret until 2018 out of fear people would judge her or her late husband. She never remarried and never tried collecting his pension. Numerous historical societies have corroborated her story. Helen Viola Jackson was 101 when she died last month in a Missouri nursing home. Well, Fort Scott, Kansas sailor killed in the attack at Pearl Harbor is coming home. Fireman 3rd Class William Barnett was 21 years old, stationed aboard the USS West Virginia on that fateful day in 1941. A torpedo attack killed 106 crewmen, including Barnett, but his remains and the remains of dozens of others were interred as unknowns at the National Cemetery of the Pacific in Hawaii. Investigators exhumed some remains for analysis. Barnett was among those identified. On May 29th of this year, Navy fireman 3rd Class William Barnett will be buried in his hometown of Fort Scott. We'll be there to welcome him. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, the latest jobs report and some of the industries taking the hardest hits. And later, got a resolution to lose weight or maybe just eat a little healthier in 2021? Well, who says you have to cut out the desserts? We're making a lighter tiramisu in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Jobs report from the government is worse than expected. The surge in coronavirus cases is slowing down the economy and more employers are letting workers go. Macy's announced a new round of store closures this week. 45 locations, including the one in Joplin's North Park Mall, will permanently shut down in the coming months. This after 29 closed last year. A new government report shows the U.S. economy lost 140,000 jobs in December, the worst results since April of last year. The unemployment rate stayed at 6.7%. Out-of-work Americans are starting to get their weekly $300 unemployment checks from the federal government, but that emergency benefit is slated to stop in mid-March. Now to World Watch, where Britain will soon require all international travelers to test negative for COVID-19 before they arrive in the UK. Some countries have already introduced pre-departure testing, but varying rules have confused passengers. Heathrow Airport CEO John Holland Kay is pushing for a global testing standard that keeps everyone safe. The mandatory testing comes as the UK government tries to ramp up protection against new, more infectious strains of COVID-19 from other countries. Canada and Australia also require negative COVID-19 tests before travelers can enter their country. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
With only 83 calories and all this creaminess, who needs to give up sweets? Not me.
But first, meteorologist Nick Kelly returns with your complete forecast.
On the heels of our last storm system yesterday that gave us rain and snow to start the day out, it's nice to see, if you were not a fan of that, just looking bone dry on the live radar network on the Skywatch Storm Tracker. That being said, we did have to start the day out with plenty of cloud cover up top, but we've actually saw a pocket of clearing, partly to mostly sunny skies for some as the afternoon got going. But the bigger picture really tells the story, especially when you look at the jet stream setup. We have an upper low, the same one that gave us the rain-snow mix yesterday and the rain back on Wednesday, digging deep across parts of the southeast, and it actually gave parts of Mississippi and Alabama a rain-snow mix to start the morning out, something they usually don't see a lot of. This upper low across Iowa and Nebraska, while not a huge player in the forecast, could have a little tiny trick up its sleeve later on tonight, while we keep an eye on another upper low working out of the Pacific Northwest. In the meantime, though, actually some partly sunny skies overlooking Freeman Health System on the south side of Joplin. And as far as temperatures for the rest of the area, downtown Joplin, we're at 36, feels like 30 with that north breeze at 7 miles per hour. Around the rest of the Joplin region, we are at 37, in Pittsburgh 36, in Webb City, and also in Seneca. And the wider view has, again, most of us in the mid and even some upper 30s already. So where do we go from here? I don't think we go too much farther, to be honest with you. The north breeze at 5 to 10 will mainly keep us to about 38 degrees, at least in Joplin for an afternoon high. Some of you will be in the upper 30s, trying to push near 40 for some. Before we start dropping by 6 o'clock this evening, we should drop back to 33. But then a little bit of upper level energy from that one wave near Nebraska and Iowa. That wants to sneak on by, and it could bring in just a few snow flurries around the midnight hour. Other than that, we'll keep things quiet for the night with overnight lows looking to drop back to 25. So the overall picture here has everybody quiet for the afternoon. Most of us trying to at least push into the upper 30s. Then your 6 o'clock, skies trying to turn mostly cloudy again, and then that little burst of upper level energy could try to bring in a few snow flurries. That's signified at 11 o'clock, but again, very slim chances for a few flurries, and it doesn't last long. We're quiet to start your Saturday out with lows in the mid-20s, and then pushing back into the upper 30s with, again, partly sunny skies for your Saturday. From Saturday on, this upper low coming out of the Pacific Northwest makes a deep dive into Oklahoma and Texas. You see how the brunt of the moisture stays just to the south, but I'm not going to rule out if it can nudge a little farther north. Maybe a few random snow flurries Sunday or Monday. It's just something we'll watch, but we're keeping most of the weekend dry. That system scoots on out, and look at the jet stream setup change. With this sneaking closer, we will see that to bring us back into the 50s on Tuesday and even pushing near 60 degrees for an afternoon high on Wednesday. That's going to be a nice reward for us after we stay quiet and cold this weekend with highs mainly in the upper 30s, Tanya.
You can make it through a weekend. I'm looking forward to that 60 degrees next Wednesday.
Yeah, anytime we hit 60 in January, that's hard to come by, so we are going to enjoy it.
We will take it. All right, thank you so much, Nick. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Private First Class James Leonard in the U.S. Army. The soldier joined the military in 1951 and served in both Japan and in Korea. He was a member of the Heavy Mortar Company, 180th Infantry, 45th Division. Leonard earned a number of honors, among them the Korean Service Medal with a Bronze Star and the Combat Infantry Badge. To Private James Leonard, we thank you, our four-state hero. How is that New Year's resolution routine going so far? A new one-poll survey found that people part ways with their resolutions after 37 days. That's February 6th. Now, eating better was the top New Year's goal for 2021, followed by managing stress and exercising more consistently. The majority said they wanted to focus on wellness this year, but more than half said that figuring out a plan that sticks was virtually impossible. Well, classic tiramisu is unbeatable, but unfortunately it's laden with fat and calories. And if you're looking to eat a little healthier in 2021, Howard shows us his recipe for a lighter tiramisu in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
All this week, we've been looking at ways to eat better. One of the biggest challenges that many of us face is how to satisfy our sweet tooth while staying on track. If you're like me and try to totally cut sweets out of your diet, you'll probably end up cheating after a short while. A better option use moderation and cut back on sugar and fat as much as possible. Let me show you a to-die-for version of tiramisu that does just that. We start by lining the bottom of an 8-inch square baking dish with ladyfingers and drizzling them with some strong black coffee. On top of that goes a layer of sugar-free instant vanilla pudding mixed with some fat-free cream cheese and a little bit more coffee. More ladyfingers go on top, and we finish it with some fat-free whipped topping and a dusting of cocoa powder. A few hours in the fridge and done. This recipe is actually from our friends at everydaydiabeticrecipes.com. Yes, it's still as decadent as traditional tiramisu, yet it only has 83 calories per piece and less than 1 gram of saturated fat. To get this recipe, as well as lots of other lighter ones, all you have to do is go to our website and type in lighter tiramisu. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a skinnier way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Give it a try. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
We keep quiet for the rest of the afternoon. Highs staying cold, though, in the upper 30s for tomorrow and Sunday as well. Then we're back in the 40s on Monday, and hopefully we can play our cards right and push back near 60 on Wednesday. Dal, what can we expect tonight at 5?
A whole lot at 5. While cases of COVID-19 continue to rise around the country, activity is extremely low for the flu. We're going to look into the reasons. Health experts say the number of flu cases remains minimal. Plus, Pittsburgh Chamber offers advice for small business owners on the next round of paycheck protection. And a major donor for Missouri Senator Josh Hawley calls on the Senate to censure him for what he considers irresponsible behavior. We're going to hear from a local Republican leader regarding Senator Hawley. Hope you join us. KOAM News at 5.
All right. Thank you, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.